Hi everyone, you may know Gotham Chess, aka Levy'S, or the internet's chess teacher, and you may remember him for his losses and him raging because he threw a winning game, or maybe because he sacrificed the run! Well, today we have perhaps his Immortal. And for those of you who don't know what an Immortal is a very sacrificial attacking game in which the winner throws in many pieces in the fire to get the king. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Levy has the white pieces, opens game with the move pawn to e4. His opponent plays move c5. This is Sicilian, so this is the most aggressive response to the e4 move from black. And now here Gotham played a very interesting sideline, the move pawn to a3. So essentially we're trying to play b4 with this move and try to remove this pawn from c5 to perhaps just free up some square on d4 to get a big boy center. d5 was played by his opponent, and after pawn takes, queen takes, we sort of are in a Scandinavian with two moves inserted. Whether that is a plus or a minus for white is of course a question still. Knight to f3, knight to f6, and now knight c3. Levy kicks the queen away. Queen d8, and now bishop c4. Just simple developing the pieces. Nothing crazy as of yet. So here e6 is played. Again, of course, a move like bishop to g4 is met by the very strong bishop takes f7 check, because this bishop is a very sufficiently defended. After king to f7, we will have to move knight to e5 check, winning this bishop. After all of those, we'll win a single pawn, of course, but the king is very weak after that. So, simply e6 was played, and now in the future, perhaps black is going to, not b5, but b6 and put the bishop on the b7 square. Levy castles, knight c6, d3, and bishop e7 and bishop f4 short castles. You see, simple developing moves. Although the engine at some point wanted Levy to play d4, now it's not possible at all, and you would have some sort of a position where black is totally equalized. But these are not classical time formats. This was, I think, a blitz game. I'm not sure, but you know, it's if it's a blitz game, then it's a lot harder to play. Well, h3 was played, just stopping anything from coming here, and also a very general waiting move. b6 by black, fianchettoing the bishop, attempting to fianchetto the bishop. Rook e1, bishop b7, and well, here is exactly the part everyone sort of gets stuck. I've developed all my pieces, although one may argue that you can also play something like queen e2, improve a little bit more, maybe play rook d1, but after those two moves, you would be left with the question of what should I do next, right? Because white normally is the one posing the problems, and you're not waiting for black, of course, to pose problems at you. You want to attack yourself. Well, here Levy decided to play knight g5. This is not the most objective move, and not the correct move objectively, but this is of course a very, very practical move and very difficult to deal with, because this bishop has moved away from the c8 square, so the pawn on e6 has less guards. For example, a move like h6, you can perhaps sacrifice the knight here, although it's a very, very risky sacrifice. And let's say like rook takes f7, and then like bishop takes on e6. If the king takes, it's going to be very, very dangerous, and your sacrifice is actually fine, because we're going to take with the rook, and then this is a huge problem all of a sudden. And if you just want to avoid losing a piece or anything, you have to move out in the open with king to g6, which is definitely not what we would like to do. So after the move knight to g5, knight to d5 is played by black, a very, very nice move, attacking the knight, attacking the bishop, also just blocking this bishop. So you may think that white is absolutely got no business doing anything here. Well, here Levy played a very nice move, queen to h5, defending the knight and also threatening checkmate. When you go, it's like poker, you know, when you commit, you gotta go. When you're going all in, you just cannot move out of the way all of a sudden. You have to get all in, everything in. You gotta throw in pieces. Of course, the bishop cannot be captured because mating 1. And for example, if a move like knight to f6 was played, you just perhaps can just hang around with queen here, and the position is very fine for you. But black is still a little bit better. But yeah, h6 was played here, and this is not a move which you would play if you're someone peaceful. You are saying, come on, sacrifice your knight somewhere. Why is that? Because essentially the bishop, which is supposed to guard these very weak squares, now is out all over here, which is essentially having a role as an attacker. So, considering all of this, Levy sacrificed the knight. Knight takes on e6. This one is an objectively correct move, fortunately. And after pawn takes and rook takes, let's count stock. Well, white has given up a knight for 2 pawns, but in turn has opened up these lines, and also look at the light squares, right? Look at the light squares, how weak they are. Now all of your pawns are on dark squares, and you would genuinely want to have this pawn back on the h6 square. That is why you should be very careful when moving pawns in front of your king, because after a hypothetical sacrifice, you may not be able to do anything anymore to defend your king. Well, the bishop is still hanging, and in 2 different ways. First, if the knight takes, well, this is a mate in 2, because I'll play rook takes h6, because it's on sacrifice, of course. I will attack the queen, and whatever you block with, I'm going to go to h8 and checkmate you on the very next move. So, you cannot take it with the knight. If you perhaps try to take it with the... Sorry about that. If you take it with the rook, well, then I can just simply take this knight, and I am very, very crushing. This is hanging, this is in here, and white is winning here. So, a very nice move by black. Knight to d4 is played here. I'm trying to sort of, mix things up. Maybe hit the rook, and also just defend the knights. Also, this bishop is hanging. Everything is hanging, right? So, you have to find a way to just open the king. You cannot back up at all in this position. And we know Levy, he likes to sacrifice the rook! Yeah, rook takes h6. So, if you decide to take the first thing which comes to mind, I will have a very good series of checks. Firstly, queen to g6. I don't take on h6 immediately, because that is very bad. Black will have time to defend themselves. I will play check, force the king to the h file, where I will be able to take this pawn with check, meaning that I still have a turn. Let's say the king goes back to g8. Here you, for example, just can play queen to g6 back, and when they go king h8, we can play queen to h5 check and win this knight. That is exactly what Levy was looking at. But after rook takes h6, black plays another interesting move, knight to e2 check. This knight continues their spiritual journey, knight c6, knight d4, knight e2. They may go out of the board to the f0 square. Like moving all of that. And here, well, the strongest move is to play like this. Just put everything to hang. But the most important thing is that this knight is hanging. This king is very weak and just cannot do anything. Let's say, like, you take this guy, and then I will take your knight. And you're just being destructed. And if you, like, try to take this knight, sorry about that. If you try to take this guy, well, this is mate. So, after all those, nothing will be able to happen. But Levy, for some reason, decided to take with the knight, taking some steam out of his attack, but he's still winning, of course. So, firstly, pawn takes. Now, again, that very same sequence. And now knight g3. So, we are looking to add this knight, possibly to h5, to maybe give a mate. Here, rook to f6 was played to force the queen away. But, of course, we have a way to keep the attack going. Whenever your pieces have to, like, retreat or drop back, try to make them so that they are checks. Queen to g5 is the strongest move, and the only move to have a very strong advantage. The king goes to f8, and this is not the best move. Knight to h5. So we insert the attacker, what we always wanted to do. We hit the rook. We are also looking for some checks. Well, firstly, of course, you cannot take with the rook on f4, and you just cannot take like this ever, because I simply have a checkmate. And so here at this position, black played this move b5, which is not good at all. It in fact makes black's position even worse than it is right now. Well, the idea for black was to essentially distract this bishop from this diagonal to maybe be able to do something in the meantime. However, this is still very much winning. But if you try to reverse engineer this thing, after the move pawn to b5, Levy played the correct and precise queen to g7 check, forcing the king to e8 and only then taking on b5, since this will be a check. Now there's a forced mate in 8, and I'll pause the video for a while to see if you can find it. Well, okay. So bishop to c6 is played. This bishop is guarded by the rook, so we remove the rook first. The knight takes back, and now bishop takes check. There's of course only one move. Queen to d7 was the best move. Well, then we would perhaps just have this very nice move, rook to e1. The queen is pinned. We're threatening a checkmate. If you take the bishop, I will checkmate you anyway. But yeah, knight d7 was played, which just totally cramps up the position. And Levy found a very nice checkmate in 2. Queen to g6 check. Bishop to h6. To f8, and bishop takes h6 checkmate. An amazing game. But even crazier than that is that you could end this amazing thriller with a move as quiet as rook to e1. Very mysterious. You bring the final piece into the game, exactly as you're taught, on the 27th move. And the threat is very simple. The threat is queen to g8 checkmate, because they can no longer block with anything. You know, it's known as an epaloué, essentially. Look at this, right? These guys are like a coat for the king, which do not let it escape. Thanks for watching this far. I would assume that you like Immortal games, having watched this far into the video. In that case, I also have this very nice game for you to watch. Kasparov had an amazing fight with another legend. See you in the next video. Take care.